Her stepmother sent her to the farthest stream every dawn not to fetch water, but to hide her from every man in the village. So why was the prince waiting for her there? Before we go deeper, drop a comment right now. Where in the world are you watching from? We would love to hear from you. And please, like, share, comment, and hit that subscribe button. The first light of dawn broke over Afa, a quiet village nestled in the green hills of Enugu State, in the heartland of the Igbo people. Smoke rose from morning fires. Roosters crowed. Mothers called their children awake. But in the small compound at the edge of the village, one girl had been awake for hours. Her name was Oluchi. She was 17 years old, with eyes that still held light despite the darkness she lived in. She moved quietly through the compound, sweeping the courtyard with a broom made of palm fronds, her movements careful, practiced, silent. She had learned long ago not to make noise. Noise brought attention. Attention brought punishment. On her wrist, she wore a single piece of jewelry, a coral beaded bracelet, faded and worn. It had belonged to her mother. It was all she had left. Her mother had died when Oluchi was only 7. Her father, heartbroken, had remarried a woman named Ngozi. For 3 years, Ngozi played the role of the loving stepmother. She smiled, she cooked, she plaited Oluchi's hair. But when Oluchi's father fell ill and passed away, the mask came off, and the cruelty began. Oluchi finished sweeping and knelt by the compound shrine to the ancestors. She whispered a prayer to her mother's spirit, touching the coral bracelet gently. Then she heard the voice she dreaded most. Oluchi. Ngozi stood in the doorway of the main house, arms folded across her chest, her face twisted with irritation. She was a beautiful woman, but bitterness had carved hard lines around her mouth. Her eyes were always searching, always suspicious, always cold. Have you fetched the water yet? Ngozi snapped. No, ma, Oluchi said softly, bowing her head. I will go now. Not from the village stream, Ngozi said sharply. You will go to the Idemili, the stream near the forest boundary. That is where you will fetch water from now on. Oluchi's heart sank. The Idemili was more than an hour's walk away, through rough paths and thick bush. It would take half the day, just to go and return. But ma, Oluchi said carefully, that stream is so far. If I go there, I will not return in time to prepare your breakfast, or wash the clothes, or... Are you questioning me? Ngozi's voice was sharp as a blade. No, ma. Then go. Now, Oluchi lifted the large clay pot and balanced it on her head. Her bare feet moved across the compound and onto the dusty path. She did not know why Ngozi had suddenly insisted she use the farther stream. She did not know that it was part of a plan to make sure no man in the village ever saw her. As Oluchi walked, she began to sing. It was her mother's lullaby, the one she used to sing to her every night before bed. The melody was soft and sweet, and it made the long journey feel a little less lonely. She did not see the shadow that watched her from Ngozi's window. She did not see the flicker of something dark in the reflection of Ngozi's mirror, a twisted face, grinning, whispering. The Agu spirit of jealousy had found a home. In Igbo spiritual belief, there are many kinds of spirits. Some protect, some guide, and some destroy. The Agu is a trickster spirit, drawn to minds filled with envy and bitterness. It does not possess, it whispers. It does not force, it suggests. And once invited in, it feeds. Ngozi stood before her mirror, staring at her own reflection. But the reflection stared back with different eyes. She's growing beautiful, the Agu whispered, its voice like oil on water. Have you seen the way her skin glows? The way she smiles even when you curse her? The villagers will notice soon. They will say she is more lovely than you ever were. No, Ngozi said aloud, gripping the edge of the table. She is nothing. She is a servant. That is all. Then why do you fear her? The Agu hissed. Why do you send her away to the distant stream? Because you know the truth. If the men of this village see her, they will want her, and you will be forgotten. Ngozi's hands trembled. The spirit was right. Oluchi was blooming into a beautiful young woman, and beauty, in a village like Afa, meant marriage. Marriage meant honor. And Ngozi could not bear the thought of Oluchi being honored. What should I do? Ngozi whispered to the mirror. The Agu smiled. Keep her hidden. Work her until she is too tired to be beautiful. And when the time is right, sell her. There is a merchant from Onitsha who buys girls to work in distant houses. Sell her, and she will disappear forever. No marriage, no honor, no memory. Ngozi closed her eyes. Somewhere deep inside, a small voice told her this was wrong. But the Agu's whisper was louder. Yes, she said. Yes, that is what I will do. The Agu spirit could not cross running water. It could not follow Oluchi to the stream, but it did not need to. It had already planted its poison in Ngozi's heart. And poison, once planted, spreads. The Agu's power was subtle but real. It placed a shadow on Oluchi, not one you could see with your eyes, but one that made her invisible to the young men of the village. When she walked through the market, they looked past her. When she fetched water from the village well, they did not notice her. It was as if she did not exist. But the Agu's magic had limits. It could not cross the sacred stream. The Iyi Idemili was protected by the water goddess, a place where offerings of white chalk and kola nuts were left by the villagers. On the banks of that stream, the Agu's shadow could not reach. And that is where Oluchi would meet the one person who could see her. Oluchi reached the stream just as the sun climbed higher in the sky. The Iyi Idemili was beautiful clear water flowing over smooth stones, surrounded by thick trees and the songs of birds. On the bank stood a small shrine to Idemili, the water goddess. White Nzu chalk marked the stones, and a calabash of palm wine sat as an offering. Oluchi knelt by the water and lowered her pot. As she filled it, she sang her mother's lullaby. That is a beautiful song. Oluchi gasped and turned. A young man stood a few feet away, smiling gently. He was tall and strong, dressed in simple wrappers like a farmer's son. His face was kind. I am sorry, he said, raising his hands. I did not mean to frighten you. You did not frighten me, Oluchi said, her heart pounding. I just did not expect anyone else to be here. I come here often, the young man said, to think, to pray. The stream is peaceful. He stepped closer. My name is Obi. I am Oluchi. He smiled. Oluchi, God's work. A fitting name. She looked down shyly. No one had spoken to her with such warmth in years. May I help you carry your pot? Obi asked. Oh no, please. The path is long. Let me help. And so he did. He lifted the heavy clay pot as though it weighed nothing and walked beside her, asking her questions, listening to her answers, laughing at her small jokes. For the first time in so long, Oluchi felt seen. She did not know that Obi was not a farmer's son. She did not know that before he came to the stream, he removed his coral royal beads and left them with his guards, who watched from a distance. She did not know that his full name was Obiora, and that he was the prince of the neighboring kingdom. But we know, and that is where the tension begins. Every morning after that, Oluchi went to the stream, and every morning, Obiora was there. He called himself Obi, and she believed him. He told her he was the son of a farmer, and she did not question it. Why would she? She had no reason to doubt him. He helped her carry water. He made her laugh. He listened when she spoke about her mother. And he did not pity her. He honored her grief. And slowly, carefully, Oluchi began to hope again. But in the palace of the neighboring kingdom, the Igwe, the king, was growing worried. "Where does my son go every morning?" he asked his chief guard. "To the Iyi Idemili, my lord," the guard answered. "He meets a girl there. Her name is Oluchi, from Afa village." The king smiled. "A girl, finally! He has refused every bride I have offered. Who is she? What family?" The guard hesitated. "She is an orphan, my lord. She lives with her stepmother. She fetches water. Then she is humble," the king said thoughtfully. "That is good. Arrange for me to visit Afa. I wish to meet this girl who has captured my son's heart." The guard bowed. But he did not know that in Afa, a darker plan was already in motion. One evening, a visitor came to Ngozi's compound. It was the time of Iru Ngebede, the traditional evening courtship visits, when young men were permitted to visit the homes of young women they admired, to speak with them under the watchful eyes of their families. Ngozi opened the door, and her breath caught. Standing before her was a young man dressed in fine wrappers, his coral beads glowing in the firelight. Behind him stood two attendants. Good evening, mother," he said respectfully. My name is Obiora. I have come to seek permission to speak with Oluchi." Ngozi's eyes widened. She recognized the coral beads. She recognized the attendants. This was no ordinary suitor. This was the prince. Her mind raced. If the prince wanted Oluchi, it meant honor for the household. It meant wealth. It meant status. But it also meant that Oluchi, her stepdaughter, the girl she had tried so hard to erase, would be elevated above her. The Agu whispered in her mind, "Refuse him. Protect yourself." But Ngozi hesitated. To refuse a prince was to invite trouble. "She is not here," Ngozi said stiffly. "She is unwell. She cannot receive visitors." Obiora's face fell. "Then I will return tomorrow." "No," Ngozi said quickly. "She will be unwell for some time. It is better that you do not return." Obiora studied her face. He nodded slowly. "I understand. Thank you, mother." He left. But he did not give up. The next morning, he told Oluchi what had happened. "I went to your home last night," he said. "I wanted to meet your family properly, but your stepmother turned me away." Oluchi's stomach dropped. You went to my home?" "Yes." "I want to do this honorably, Oluchi. You must not go back," Oluchi said urgently. "Please, my stepmother, she does not want me to marry. If you go again, she will be angry. She will hurt you." "Hurt me?" Obiora almost laughed. "Oluchi, I can protect myself." "No," Oluchi said, tears filling her eyes. "You do not understand. She has plans. She knows people, bad people. If she sees you as a threat, she will..." She stopped. She had overheard Ngozi speaking to a stranger the night before, a man with a scarred face. They had spoken of bandits, of the path near the stream, of someone who needed to be dealt with. Oluchi realized with horror that Ngozi planned to have Obi attacked. But if she told him the full truth, she would have to admit she had been listening. Ngozi would know. And Ngozi would make sure Oluchi never left the compound again. She would lose the stream. She would lose Obi. She would lose everything. This was her impossible choice. Tell him and lose him. Stay silent and watch him walk into danger. Oluchi looked into his kind eyes, and she made her decision. "There is something you need to know," she said. Oluchi told Obiora everything. She told him about the conversation she had overheard, about the bandits, about Ngozi's plan. She begged him not to come to the stream anymore, not to return to her compound, to forget her and stay safe. Obiora listened. And then he smiled. Oluchi, he said gently, there is something I need to tell you as well. He reached into his wrapper and pulled out the coral beads he had hidden. He fastened them around his neck. My name is not Obi. It is Obiora. I am the son of the Igwe of the neighboring kingdom. I am a prince. Oluchi stared at him, her mouth open. You are... I did not tell you because I wanted you to know me. Not my title, not my wealth. Just me. He took her hands. And now I know you. Your kindness, your strength, your heart. Oluchi, I want you to be my wife. Tears streamed down Oluchi's face. But my stepmother will not hurt me, and she will not hurt you. Not anymore. Obiora called his guards from the trees. He sent a message to his father, and within hours, the Igwe himself arrived in Afa, accompanied by the village Dibia, the priest and spiritual leader. Ngozi was summoned. The Dibia performed Igu Afa, the sacred divination ritual. He cast the kola nuts on the mat before the gathered villagers. In Igu tradition, it is said that the kola nut does not lie. It reveals truth. The Dibia read the patterns and looked up at Ngozi. You have been consumed by jealousy, he said. You have mistreated this girl. You have planned to sell her like an animal. You have broken the laws of hospitality and kinship. Ngozi's face went pale. The villagers murmured. The eldest man of Afa stepped forward, holding the Ofo staff, the staff of authority and truth. Before the Ofo, no lie could stand. Ngozi, he said, do you deny these things? Ngozi opened her mouth. The Agu screamed in her mind, telling her to lie, to fight, to resist. But she could not. Not before the Ofo, not before the ancestors. No, she whispered. I do not deny it. The Dibia nodded. Then you must make a choice. Release Oluchi with your blessing, or face the judgment of the community. Ngozi looked at Oluchi. For the first time in years, she truly saw her. Not as a threat, not as a rival, but as a girl who had lost her mother, a girl who had suffered, a girl who had done nothing to deserve this pain. The Agu whispered one last time, do not do this. You will lose everything. But Ngozi closed her eyes, and for the first time, she chose love over poison. I release her, Ngozi said. With my blessing. The moment the words left her mouth, the Agu shrieked and vanished. It could not survive an act of selfless love. The shadow lifted, the jealousy cracked, and Ngozi wept. Dawn broke over Afa once more. Oluchi walked to the stream, a clay pot balanced on her head. But this time, she wore a wrapper of fine cloth given to her by the prince's family. This time, her coral bracelet had been polished and honored. This time, she was not invisible. Villagers bowed as she passed. Children waved. Women smiled. And beside her walked Obiora, the prince, singing with her. They reached the Iyi Idemili together. The shrine to the goddess was freshly adorned with new offerings. Oluchi knelt at the water's edge and filled the pot, just as she had done 100 times before. But this time, Obiora knelt beside her. She looked at her reflection in the water. The girl staring back was different now. Not because a prince loved her, but because she had chosen truth. She had chosen courage. She had chosen to trust, even when trust was dangerous. Oluchi poured a libation into the stream, honoring her mother's spirit and the goddess Idemili who had protected her. Thank you, she whispered. Obiora took her hand, and together, they rose. In a few weeks' time, there would be a wedding. There would be the Igbanku ceremony, the wine-carrying tradition. where Oluchi would walk through the gathered crowd and choose Obiora publicly, offering him the ceremonial cup. But for now, in this quiet morning, it was enough to walk home together, to be seen, to be loved, to be free. The story could have ended there, but the best stories never really end. The image shifts, the colors soften. We pull back to see that we have been watching a story within a story. An old Dibia sits beneath a large Udala tree in the center of Afa village. Around him, children sit cross-legged on woven mats, their eyes wide with wonder. He has just finished telling them the tale of Oluchi and the prince. One little girl raises her hand. But Dibia, why did the prince love her? She was just a water carrier. The old man smiles. He reaches into his pouch and pulls out a kola nut. He places it in the little girl's palm. The Igbo people have a saying, he says. His voice is warm, ancient, steady. The one who brings kola brings life. Good things do not run away. He looks at each child, one by one. Oluchi fetched water with dignity when she thought no one was watching. She sang with joy when her heart was breaking. She loved when the world was cruel. That is what made her fit to be a queen. Not the prince, not the palace, her own character. The old Dibia stands, his Ofo staff in hand. Your worth
is not
he
determined
says,
by who
is not
sees you.
determined by who sees you.
It is determined by who you
It is
are
determined by
when
who
no
you
one is
are
watching.
when no one is watching. The children nod solemnly. The little girl looks down at the kola nut in her hand. The camera pulls back slowly, rising above the village of Affa, above the green hills of Enugu, above the sacred stream where a girl once sang alone and found love. And in the distance, we hear it one last time, Oluchi's mother's lullaby, carried on the wind, a melody that will never be forgotten. And the story, like all great stories, becomes a truth passed down forever.